Hi, I'm Angela Ryder. Thanks for joining me. Today, I'm going to share a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes before a session starts, including something that might surprise you, which is the session doesn't start when we get on the call or Zoom. It actually starts when you book it. When you fill out the intake form and write down what you'd like to address in a session, your spirit team is already listening. They are always standing by waiting for you to make a request. So when you say what you want support with or clarity on, it's like opening the door and asking your spirit team for help too. And they begin working on your behalf from that moment on, which could be days or even a week before the session time booked with me. So the intake note you provide when you book a session doesn't need to be overly detailed or perfectly worded. What matters is that you name what you want support with. And your team already knows the full picture behind whatever you're asking. So you can just provide a few details and state what you're ready to receive support for. That's the permission for your team to act, and it's the focal point that orients the session. And it's also my lens into the session. When I read your notes aloud to the spirit team as a pre-session meetup, I'm not working or trying to get through everything your team has access to. I'm entering through the specific door you've opened. So whatever you've shared in the notes is where we begin. That's also why something can shift just from writing it down. I've often heard from clients that by the time they get to the session, something already moved, shifted, or evolved, or they got clarity on something. In some case, it's completely done. And then when the session starts, we just check in and open the session to what's most relevant then or at that point. So naming what you want support with already begins the process. What comes through is specific to you and directed by your higher self and team, and my job is to open and hold the channel. Their job is to direct what flows through it. So I give myself about 30 minutes before each session. And although I've always given myself a few minutes before each session to set the pace and to tune in, about 8 or 9 years ago, I found the spirit team was really insistent that I take more time with them before the session. So now for every session, I give myself at least 20 to 30 minutes beforehand to prepare and then do that pre-session meetup with your spirit team. You know, the first several minutes of that 20 to 30 minutes are about preparing the place, clearing out the riffraff, setting the energetic container, and centering myself. There's a clearing, a focusing, and setting the intention for a clear channel. Then I call in all the spirit team members that are most relevant for what the client has shared in their intake notes. And then I ask that the higher self lead and direct the session on their behalf so that they may receive the guidance, clarity, energy work, and the next steps that are most supportive. And then I read those notes out loud to the team, and I read it kind of as a way of bringing me, their spirit team, and mine all into alignment with what they're asking for. And then I focus in and ask their spirit team 3 things. First, I ask, is there any energetic support you'd like me to do before the session? And when they want to do energy work, it's usually something to help clear something out or calm things down or open things up and provide a connection for the client so that they can feel ready to receive when we start. So sometimes the answer is yes, and then that work happens before we even get on the call. And they do energy work in the background during a session regardless if they do something more beforehand. So I don't usually worry about energy work happening. It always happens anyway. And then the second thing I ask is there anything specific you'd like to address through the vocal channel during the session? This helps me understand, where the team wants to focus at the beginning, and it allows me to get in alignment with that. So once the client and I are together and the session is started, we go right into that channel. And the third question I ask, and I'm going to spend a little more time on, I ask, do you have a written transmission for this client? And this is where I usually always get the most surprised. So sometimes the spirit team has something they want to transmit through the written channel before a session begins. And this is different from spoken guidance that I channel during the session. It's a really distinct, different mode and experience for me. When the team wants me to do a written transmission, I'm not hearing sentences and transcribing them. The words like flow through me, down my arm, down into the pen, and onto the page. And as the words are flowing, I only really become aware of what the word is about the time they hit my hand, even though I can feel them coming down that channel. So the message arrives one word at a time in a very different cadence and structure from how I normally would speak, or even definitely not how I would write on my own. And the message can really surprise me sometime as I become aware of what's coming out and being transmitted. And these transmissions tend to be, focused on an aspect or the undercurrent or construct that's actually driving the topic, or they speak directly to what was written in the intake notes. And they run 5 to 15 minutes long. And when I finish, I thank the team. And then the session where I meet the client starts usually just a few minutes later. So after I open the session, we have our greeting and we reorient together. I read the message that we got from the spirit team. And then the team usually expands on that message for a few more minutes. And after that, the client often describes that they felt something shifting in them while they were waiting for the session to begin, and that the message that I read aligns to what they were feeling or thinking. So when the spirit team says that they don't have a written transmission for a session, it's not a reflection on the client or on the session. It just means the team is directing their attention elsewhere into the energy work happening before the call or into the channel that will open once we're live. My job is just to show up, prepare, ask the questions, receive what comes through, and their job is to determine what serves the client most in this moment. So the main takeaway and wrap up of all of this is that you are always supported. When you book a session, your team will take your request as their directive to get working on it once you ask and before you even get on the session with me. If you're curious about how to work with your spirit team and inner guidance outside of a session, almost all of my videos share practices on how to connect and work with your spirit team in different ways. You can also find several blogs on my website that can help you develop your intuition and connection with your team. And if you'd like support on something and to work with your team on a specific topic, you can book a session with me at AngelaRyder.com. The link is in the description. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.